Michelle, and welcome to The Mustard Seed Wife, where we talk about everything from love and marriage, natural living, and faith. And today I'm going to be talking about how I knew my husband was the one and how you can know your man is the one as well. So let's get it. The first way you can know that he is the one is, did God tell you he's the one? So let me tell you my story. And I met my husband in January 2020. I know, right at the start of the pandemic. And the year before, I was really just, going in my relationship with God, like praying and fasting, and I was, just going in my relationship with him and just really like tuning into him and learning what was his plans for my life. And he told me that I was going to be getting married soon. And I felt like my time in Maryland was coming to an end and that I was going to be leaving eventually. And so I asked him, like, okay, so when and how? So little by little, he ended up, telling me piece by piece and stuff like that. Like, I remember one time I was praying and he told me to not delete my Facebook. And it's funny because I'm never really on Facebook. So I was like, why don't I just delete this? Like I'm barely on it anyways. And he was like, no, don't. And coincidentally, Jason, he reached out to me through Facebook. So hooray for God. So yeah, I was fasting and praying, and he told me to keep my Facebook on, and he told me that I was going to meet my husband in January. He was going to reach out to me and that we were going to get married. It was going to be very fast. And I was like, okay. So lo and behold, Jason reaches out to me in January, and we already knew each other before. I'll talk more about how we met and stuff in a later video, but we already knew each other before, so it's not like he was a complete stranger, but it was so smooth, guys. It was so obvious, like we were meant to be together. Like we fell in love like so fast can, to societal standards, it was pretty fast. We started talking again in January, and we got engaged in June and married in July. So yeah, the Lord was right. So like I said, like, did God say so? Like for me, like I was so firm that was God. Like I knew God, it was God. Like I knew his voice. And I know like a lot of people will say like, oh, like he's the one. And even me, like I remember before, like there was, when I was still single, like I would think like God told me that guy was the one and that guy was supposed to be my husband, and lo and behold, he was not. So for me, like, yeah, like God, obviously, like we're still in this flesh, but God can definitely tell you who your spouse is gonna be. Don't go overboard with it. Like I didn't tell my husband like, oh yeah, God told me that you were gonna be my husband. I didn't tell him that like as soon as we met. That would have been like kind of weird. I told him that when we were engaged, and he was just like, wow, like God actually said that's like crazy, like you have to use wisdom with every word that you have. Like sometimes you just have to keep it between you and God, you know what I mean? Like you can't go telling everybody like, oh, this is what God says, because what if it wasn't, like what if it was your flesh? Because for me, like it could have been my flesh, but I mean I knew it was God, but at the same time it could have been my flesh. And slowly but surely, like as we were talking, like God showed me, like that it was God who told me that we were going to meet in January and stuff like that. You know what I mean? Like you have to use wisdom with every word that you have, and you have to know God, he wants to be involved in every aspect of our lives. Like he's our dad. He wants to be involved in something as important as marriage, like who we're going to get married to, who we're going to get yoked up with. Like, yeah, like he could definitely tell you like if that person is meant to be in your life or not. It just takes asking him. And yeah, maybe it could take a month or two of just serious praying and consecrating yourself to the Lord and just determining like, God, before I move forward in this relationship, do you want me to even be in this relationship? Like, is there a future here? So yeah, definitely praying and asking the Lord, because he's our Father and he wants what's best for us. And the second way that I knew that my spouse was the one, my husband was the one, was we had peace. Like there were no red flags. We were on each other's level, like on so many things, like with faith, and we had similar life goals, and like we wanted the same things in life, you know what I mean? Like there was no drama or anything, and not to knock anybody who, I don't know, who maybe has drama in their relationship, but there was just peace. And even though like we were long distance and there was a pandemic and, you know, just dealing with family drama like during, you know, the engagement period, like I still had peace. And I feel like that peace was definitely grounded in the fact that God had told me like that I was going to meet my husband in January. So having that word and just hanging on that word definitely helped me like stay firm in my relationship and in my marriage. I mean, I knew I wanted to be with Jason. I wanted to be with my husband. And there was nobody who was going to keep me from marrying my husband because I knew that we were going to be together. I wanted to be with him, you know? So just the fact that we had no red flags, I felt safe with him. I felt like I could share my heart with him. I could share my goals with him. I could share my life with him. And you have to ask yourself that, like, could I see myself being with this person for 10 years, 10 months, 10 minutes? Like, do we have similar life goals? You know, like, have you talked about that? Have you talked about, like, children or owning a house, like, getting out of debt, you know? Like, do you have similar life goals? Do you have peace? Like, is it a headache constantly talking with this person? And is it constantly, like, pulling teeth when you talk to them, or if you talk about how you feel about things? You know what I mean? Like, are you compatible? And the last one is kind of a weird one, but let me just get into it. So it's opposition. For me, I feel like this is true for some cases, but I had some opposition in my engagement period, which I understand. Like I said, like we met in January and we're engaged in June, and though like people were happy for me, we definitely had like some people with obvious concerns, which I get, but we also had some straight up opposition. We dealt with some just bad things, like horrible, just rude comments from certain family members that was just mean and hateful and just so divisive. And it was opposition, you know? And I feel like that if you face opposition, especially if you're a Christian and you face opposition right after you get a promise, you know, like I got the promise from God that I was gonna marry somebody in January. The promise came to fruition, we got engaged, and right then there's opposition. And you see that in the Bible, like with the Israelites, when they received the promise, like they had a promise for hundreds of years that the Lord was going to make a great nation out of them. And right after they left Egypt, they were going to the promised land, and they received opposition after opposition from neighboring nations who didn't want them to get their promise, but they had to push through it. And I feel like God, he allows opposition to come to see, you know, if you are gonna go through with it, you know, like, are you going to stand firm on the promise? Are you gonna stand strong even though people are coming against you? Are you gonna trust in God, trust in faith, and trust in the promise? Or are you just gonna crumble, you know? Like, it really shows what you're made of when you face opposition. And I feel like that's true for anything in life. Like, when you face opposition and when you're going after something, like, it shows what you're made of, you know? Like, are you gonna stand firm or are you gonna fall? So those are my ways, like how I knew that my husband was the one. And I hope this blessed you. You can read more about this in my blog post, How I Knew My Husband Was the One, on themustardseedwife.com. And I pray that this blessed you. I pray that this was a blessing to you in some type of way. Well, I love you guys, and I hope you guys have a great rest of your day.